You have to understand what I've been through. All of it made me into the man that I am today.
32-0, his brother Andre Ward was great.
I'm going to do things my way. I wanted to have a body of work, not just in the ring, but as a man. Only thing you ain't done in boxing is lose.
SOG, The Book of Ward, only on Showtime, streaming with Paramount Plus.
When it's time to get it in, I ain't the one to mess with.
Bellator returns with a double title fight tilt. Light heavyweight champ Vadim Nemkov is on a collision course.
Ain't no way to stop us when we hit ignition.
With the most terrifying fighter in MMA, Yoel Romero.
What a monster!
Plus, bantamweight champ Sergio Pettis.
Pettis, spectacular!
Faces Bellator GOAT Patricio Pitbull.
Ain't no way to stop us when we on a mission.
Bellator MMA, Nemkov versus Romero, and Pettis versus Pitbull. Friday on Showtime.
It's that summer blockbuster with the old school feel when unbeaten welterweight champions Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Bud Crawford face off at just 45 days from now. July 29th in Las Vegas on Showtime pay-per-view. But today, day 2 of a bi-coastal press tour to get you all things fired up. Welcome on in to Showtime Sports coverage from here at the Palladium Times Square in New York City. I'm Brian Campbell. This is Luke Thomas. We are the co-hosts of the award-winning Showtime Digital Combat Sports Series, Morning Combat. And Luke, you could not be more fired up for this fight because it doesn't get any bigger than this. Years in the making, so much at stake. Can I get a pulse check? Can I get a wellness check on you ahead of this fight?
I still wonder sometimes, are we dreaming? Is this fight actually going to happen? And of course, it definitely is. But here's what we learned yesterday at the press conference, that these two were going to be a little bit chippy with one another, a little bit prideful, and that got my expectations even higher. I mean, listen, BC, what could we say about this fight that hasn't already been said? 2 undefeated records, maybe the most important fight for this generation, certainly the most important fight for 147 pounds, and on and on. but it's more than that. It's a fight that actually needs to happen. It's a fight that boxing has to have. The very best have to fight each other. Not every year, you can't even expect that necessarily. When I say that, I mean the 2 pound for pound best. But we're going to get it here this time, not just in this weight class, but for all of boxing. The 2 best are going to finally square off. This is what the sport needs to lift itself, to carry itself, and honestly, I would say this, to stay in a healthy kind of state.
Well, dreams do come true for boxing fans. It's not Christmas time or the holiday season, but it's been a very big year for big events. Like we said, it does not get any bigger than this. The first undisputed 4-belt welterweight champion will be crowned July 29th, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, presented, of course, by Premier Boxing Champions. You're going to hear from both fighters today, just 24 hours after they faced off for the first time in Los Angeles. We're going to interview them, the trainers, the accompanying parties right here on this stage. But what you mentioned, the little bit of fire that came out yesterday, this may not be the type of fight that has or even needs an abundance of trash talk or some of that sizzle, that flair. It sells itself on the name, on the accomplishments, but I think also on the intensity of both fighters, the competitiveness. This one really feels like it could be extra special.
Yeah, I don't think that they're out there playing mind games exactly. You often see that as part of the fight game. One guy can be good at the pre-fight stuff and get in the other fighter's head and derail them. I don't necessarily see that as what went on yesterday in Los Angeles. Instead, it's the point that you raised. These are 2 extremely competitive guys, extremely motivated, driven both by ability, riches, and also purpose. That's what really gets them up in the day. That's what really gets them going. Excuse me. And so I think you saw that leak out yesterday a little bit, BC. You saw their competitive fires run into one another. I mean, again, we said it on yesterday's broadcast. Who are the 2 best welterweights on the planet? It's these 2 guys by a country mile.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. There is only one thing left to find out. Who is number 1? We're going to get that done. No Austin Powers joke there intentionally.
At the ages of 35 and 33, Spence and Crawford, respectively, still at the very peak of their physical, their mental powers. They will put it all on the line July 29th. We're talking about the best in this division. We're talking about really the pound-for-pound best in the sport today. The winner will be that too. In addition to being the undisputed 4-belt, undefeated welterweight champion, I feel like both of these guys for years have showed us that they have the potential to be all-time greats. But to have that one-up in the debate, to be the face of the era in the aftermath of what was an absolutely electric Mayweather-Pacquiao welterweight era and really an entire era for the sport, we've long wanted to know who's next to take that baton and run it. We've had 2 on the track here in Spence and Crawford finally crossing paths. And you've been whistling. You've been whistling something this week, Luke Thomas. Not just the potential of being fired up for July 29th, but maybe a second, third chapter. Can boxing fans dream that much on this matchup?
We actually did a podcast once with the Showtime boxing guys, Eric Raskin and Kieran Mulvaney. And if you may not remember, on that very podcast, I said I actually thought it was possible we would get to in 2023. We now know they have a contract clause that is mutually enforceable in either direction for a rematch. So again, we cannot declare we're going to get 2. Hello, we still have to get the first one. Let's get that behind us. But there is at least some reason for optimism, some reason for belief that when you have a mutually capable trigger being pulled for a second fight, there's a decent chance we're going to get it, especially if there is a contested decision, especially Absolutely. If it's very, very close. One of these guys is not going to just say, well, the judges got it wrong. I guess that's that. C'est la vie. No. So this is it's been an exciting year for boxing overall. We should say that. I know I was talking earlier about the health of the sport, and people kind of laugh when you do that, but it does need better years like this. It does need these cycles to go through, and some are going to be better than others, but coming off of Tank and Ryan, and of course all of the many other great fights.
Plant and Benavidez, another big
There's
one.
been so many this year in so many different places. Now we get to add this one, the crown jewel, the pound-for-pound #1 fighter, and there's no question about whether these 2 guys deserve to be in the slot. Dude, what is there not to like? What is there not to get up and fired up for? This is everything you could possibly want in a boxing match, all put together.
The intentions of both fighters, the ability of both fighters. There's a reason why this was that fight on the tip of every fight fan's tongue for 4 or 5 years in terms of what would be the dream, that crossover moment. And the reason is, you ask the question why. Well, the reason is I think because every great era especially in the welterweight division, which in the last 20, 25 years, when the heavyweight division can be so up and down, welterweight's carried the sport. It's been the star division, the money division, the pay-per-view home for so many big fighters from De La Hoya through to Mayweather. But every era has that really special welterweight showdown. Sugar Ray Leonard, Thomas Hearns in 1981, De La Hoya and Felix Trinidad in 1999. Luke, Mayweather Pacquiao just what, 8 years ago? Feels like this fight is the most anticipated since that. And that was the biggest fight in the history of the sport, just to remind you. You couldn't ask for anything more in this one. And I like hearing the early feels of what the strategy might be, the temperament might be for both guys. Are we going to see a 12-round scientific chess match? Are we going to see this turn into an accidental war like the favorites of old, like a Hagler-Hearns, or some perfect cross-section where these two bring it together? I may expect it to go 12, but it'd be 12 beautiful, incredible, intense rounds. I've never, in modern memory, remembered a fight where it's this 50-50 on paper, where every single person I ask either says they don't know or they feel like, you know, today I'm Spence, but yesterday I was Crawford. That's when you know you've got a great one in front of you. When you have great fighters lined up and you can't quite tell where it's going to go, those are usually the nights that are the best ones. Those are usually the nights where something memorable happens, something dramatic, something out of left field. And again, I don't really know which way to go with this one. I've been leaning Spence in certain ways. Excuse me. I apologize. We talked yesterday about how I thought in the last, say, 6 or 7 fights, I thought Spence had done better work against better opposition. But at the same time, they've got a mutual opponent in Sean Porter, and I thought Bud Crawford did much better against him than Errol Spence. Do styles make fights? These are all questions we're going to have. But to the point you raise, the stakes are incredible in this one. The rewards are incredible in this one. And also, just from a pure boxing standpoint, even if these guys were not fighting for these acclaimed positions, just the way in which they match up is extremely intriguing for boxing hardcores. What is going to win out here between two highly scientific fighters, two very competitive fighters, two very experienced fighters, two fighters who have never tasted defeat in the professional ranks? Everything about this just lines up for, listen, we can't say perfect because, of course, nothing is, and there's all kinds of ways things can get tripped up between now and then or in the fight itself. But, again, on paper, boxing matches, they just don't come better than this. Yeah. Period. And it's the perfect contrast in default on paper of southpaw versus orthodox, but that doesn't even begin to tell it because these two have so many ways to win. And they can box and circle from the outside. They can get in the trenches and absolutely bring it.
And sorry to cut you off there, BC, but also, like, fight fans know Bud will take on southpaws and then get in the southpaw stance himself. So there's all kinds of weird and fun and exciting mysteries about which way this is going to go.
Absolutely. I mean, when a fighter like Bud Crawford fights a mere mortal, sometimes it's that one big adjustment and the fight is over. Typically when he goes southpaw, this is that type of fight that we expect to be contested at a high pace with high intensity. That will be interweaving of high skill, ebbs and flows, big time adjustments, because these are two craftsmen in there, two geniuses of what they do. But that extra exciting element, and the reason I think why both fighters use that term so often at Tuesday's LA press conference, old school, they both also have that dog in them. We've seen Errol Spence walk down and finish people. Yordenis Ugas last year in their title unification. But Luke, who's a better finisher in this entire sport late in a fight than Terence Bud Crawford?
I don't know. I don't know that there is one, quite frankly. And his ability to dissect opponents, his ability to make adjustments and take away things. Again, every time someone compares someone to Floyd, it's always a very sketchy comparison.
Yeah, don't do it, first of all, okay?
So I won't. Certainly not in the broader sense of things. But I will say, who has been the best in boxing since Mayweather-Pacquiao? Because I know Floyd had some fights after that. But I mean, that was the tail end of his professional career. Who has been the best in the game at making those adjustments round over round, taking things away from his opponents, dissecting them, and ultimately just putting the boots to their neck? It's Bud Crawford. It's Bud Crawford. Certainly Errol Spence has this amazing ability to stick to a game plan and then just beat down the door of the opponent round after round after round till it comes off the hinges. So it's a very different kind of methodical style that ultimately ends in very similar positions. But to the point that you raised, BC, the creativity of Bud Crawford, the imagination of what you can do. And also, I will say this, both guys definitely put themselves in the line of fire, BC.
Sure.
But I would argue that Bud puts himself a little bit more into that space.
I don't know.
Taking some risks to get a certain kind of punch later in fights, so a certain kind of risk to get a certain kind of finish. I would argue that
Sometimes it depends on the matchup and the temperament. We did see Errol Spence go to war with Shawn Porter pretty much from the start, whether that was what his corner wanted or not. Of course, we saw Spence walk down and finish Ugas, but so much at stake with so much accomplishments already for two future Hall of Famers, all-time greats, trying to figure out who's the man, who's the face of this era. Spence, he's been at 147 pounds here for this entire run, but who hasn't he beat among willing, active, former champions and big stars who were willing and able to get in the ring with him? He took the O from Mikey Garcia. He defeated Shawn Porter in a classic. He unified against Yordenis Ugas. Terence Crawford, on the other hand, he's won world titles in 3 different divisions. He was the first 4-belt undisputed champion at 140 pounds. And if he wins on July 29th, talk about doing that in 2 consecutive divisions. Wow, this is a big one for a reason, because these are 2 of the biggest stars in the game. I want to talk to, though, Luke, the man who had a big part in making sure this fight was official, signed on paper. Boxing fans get what they want. He's the president of Showtime Sports, Steven Espinoza. And Steven, I know you don't like to talk much about your legacy. You like to make great fights and let the fans enjoy them. But you've done Mayweather-Pacquiao, Mayweather-McGregor. How does it feel to be able to get this done, get Spence Crawford done while you're in charge here? Because this is the one everyone wanted.
Not because of the quality of the fight, but really the process. It was a different process that was unlike anything I've ever been involved in. I mean, we had Floyd active in his negotiations. He was very involved in every aspect of it. But I can't remember a case where Floyd actually inserted himself and called an opponent, and said, we're at an impasse. Let me help break this down. And that's exactly what happened here. It was a unique process. I know, people got a little impatient, but we're here now, and now the excitement begins.
Just to follow up with that, if I can, for folks at home who just don't understand, hey, why didn't this happen sooner? Blah blah blah. What is the best answer for why it didn't happen sooner? As glad as they are that it's here now.
Right. And, there's not one thing in particular or even one side to blame. I think the reality is both of these guys had a very specific, very defined set of expectations for the deal. And that's their right, and for something this big, this stature of an event, it shouldn't happen unless everyone's happy with their deal. So the reality, it just took a lot of time to get on the same page. Some of it is some of the uncertainty in the marketplace. Like, what does this fight do? Is it $1 million by pay-per-view? Is it more? Is it less? How do you balance the financial expectations? It really wasn't so much any of the what I'll call silly stuff, like who walks first and who gets the locker room and things like that. That wasn't issues. It's just, each of them had to be comfortable with the deal. We had to get it right, and that took some time.
You want to talk about big fights? I mentioned earlier that every era seems to have theirs. For this era, this welterweight era, and really the pound-for-pound landscape of the sport, it's certainly this one. That's got to get you fired up as a fight fan just the same. I don't remember a fight where I've had this many people not really sure what this fight is going to look like. Well, and that tells you something, right?
Well, and you've seen the odds. I think that it shifted. It started even, it went a little bit Spence, now it's a little bit Crawford. I think that's going to be the whole way. No, odds aren't everything. Everybody knows this is a toss-up. I mean, people lean one way or the other, but I have yet to see someone credible who says, oh yeah, I know exactly who's going to win and why. That's just not the way it's going to happen.
What we heard echoed, and you were there in person at the first leg of the press conference on Tuesday in LA, was that term old school to describe this fight. Both fighters used it. How would you describe that in comparison to this one? Like, what does that mean to you, that this is an old school pairing?
It's a good question. I mean, to me, and I think the best analogy, even why I would call it old school, is this is Leonard Hearns. I mean, to me, that's the best analogy. But if we look through history, there has been this type of generational fight in the glamour division, in the welter division, just about once a generation. And you can go Leonard Hearns, you can go Whitaker Chavez,
Sure.
You can go
De La Hoya
Trinidad, Mayweather Pacquiao, and then I think this is the definitive welterweight glamour fight of this generation.
Yeah, no doubt.
Are we officially in an era of guys wanting the smoke? This year has been great for boxing, certainly on Showtime, but not exclusive to. There's been great boxing in a lot of places. This is the next piece of maybe the crown jewel of the year. We shall see. But why is it all of a sudden we're getting? Again, I know this one took some careful time, and maybe it is just timing. But it does seem like the younger guys, they wanted a little bit more.
Yeah, I have a theory. It's not completely fleshed out, but it seems like there was sort of a recommitment coming out of the pandemic. And that affected a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And a lot of people woke up and said, look, this can all disappear anytime. But if you look at what happened after the pandemic, I think we were on a very good roll as a network before the pandemic. Pandemic interrupted everything. But if you look after, coming in 21, 22, 23, we started seeing, we had Canelo versus Plant for undisputed. We've got unification fights. So we had Jermell Charlo and Castaño twice. We've seen Stephen Fulton unify. There's been a lot, and when you look at it, sort of numerically, in the last roughly 2 years, we've had 5 male undisputed champions happen. 5 in 2 years. That's never happened in history. So what does that signify? You can't get undisputed champions unless the best are fighting the best. And that is, demonstrably happening.
What angle of this fight, as a fight fan, what angle, I don't mean storyline, but I mean the fight itself, are you most curious about? What is the individual, matching up scenario that has you most intrigued?
I think for all the storylines, to me, the most interesting is what happens in the ring. I mean, it's the most basic, but that's what we're there for. And given their styles, the difficult thing about putting together some of these fights, along with our partners at Premier Boxing Champions and TGB, is there's one element you can't control. We can control the TV production, we can control the marketing, all of that. You can't control what's happening in the ring. And as people who help stage and organize events, we want people watching, going to have a good experience. So there's always some nervousness. Everyone's done all this work. Everyone's come out to this fight. Let's hope it's a good fight. I'm not losing sleep over this one being a good fight. That's not my concern at all.
Right.
Well, that's something we talked about, because this doesn't have the Mayweather-McGregor jawing, performance art, rap battle back and forth. It doesn't need it, though. But was there anything about yesterday's press stop that surprised you in seeing a bit of that A-list machismo come out of each guy?
I saw those guys elevate their game, because both Terence and Errol are sometimes reserved. Errol's very humble, doesn't talk a lot. You sometimes will get some talking out of Bud, but overall, they're not guys with huge social media presence. They're not out there putting themselves out there. What you saw yesterday, I think, was out of character for both of them, because they both came out pretty aggressive, and I think they're going to come out even more aggressive today, having experienced it once. But they were more vocal, more confident, more confrontational than we've seen either of them, I think, in most of their past fights.
I made this point earlier in the broadcast. I wonder what you make of it here very quickly, Stephen, which is that, you can't expect fights like this to happen every year. They are difficult to make for that reason. But I do feel like this is not just a fun fight or an important fight in the sense of what it means for the welterweight division. It's an important fight for boxing. Boxing needs its very best to square off, at least on a semi-regular basis, in order for the sport's health, which I know is often commented on. But in all seriousness, this kind of thing has to happen, right?
It does. And I think, the narrative that it hasn't been happening is a little bit tired and no longer accurate. I think if you look demonstrably at the last couple of years, it has been happening. It is happening. And, I think the reason what maybe pushed this one over the edge is the disappointment we all felt last fall when it fell apart. And we all had a bad taste in our mouth coming out of that. So it says when we got the opportunity, which we weren't even sure we would get the opportunity to get all together again and start negotiations. Then once we did, it was sort of more motivation. None of us wanted to have that feeling again of having it seemingly fall apart and not deliver something that the sport and the fans need.
All right, final question before we get up on stage and start this thing. Something we, not as journalists, but as fans, have been kind of, hey. the rematch clause, the two-sided one. Do you guys sit up in the office and go, hey, fighters, if you want to do this 2, 3 times, 4 times, we'll leave the door open at Showtime's pay-per-view. I mean, we'll keep letting you back in.
Well, given the challenges of making the deal, it seems silly not to build in at least an opportunity to do it again and not have to have any arguments or confrontations about it. It's not a guaranteed, I don't think anyone involved is a big fan of saying, look, they're definitely going to fight 2. That's not guaranteed, but I think, in this particular case, I don't expect anything other than a close fight. So we could see it twice.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, the president of Showtime Sports, Steven Espinoza. That's enough for us right now. We'll be on the back end with breakdowns, interviews. But pretty shortly, we'll be throwing to the stage here day 2 of the Bi-Coastal Press Tour. Spence versus Crawford, and all building up to the big one, July 29th, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, and only on Showtime pay-per-view. And, of course, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions. Luke, I'm ready. I am ready for this, all right? So let's toss it. Let's go now. Sorry about that. Almost time to get going over there. But, Luke, the fighters are getting ready. We're going to have the face-off. We're going to get the introductions. Ray Flores in the house.
Yes, indeed.
Brought the big voice, Brian Custer, our colleague, as well. So it's going to be good. I can expect a little bit more spice today.
Yeah, I think he's right. I think that flight from L.A. to New York City, and then for an 11 a.m., although it's a little bit past that at this point, but still a very early, relatively speaking, kind of presser, they're going to be a little bit ornery.
Yeah, we talked about it off camera. It's not necessarily the days of 1985, Hagler Hearns. Let's do a multi-city across the country press tour, but that got the ire of both building up. Hagler Hearns was obviously a special, different, amazing type of night, but it was really that proximity. I don't want to talk about this fight. I want to do it in the ring. You get a little bit of there, but we saw the competitiveness of both guys come out yesterday. Let's see what we get today when they do face off and trade words. And just a reminder, afterwards, we're going to have both fighters sitting down right here and maybe stir it up a little with them, okay?
Yeah, I believe we're supposed to have them both at the same time. So that should be...
We'll see what that looks like. Hopefully get a chance to talk to the trainers as well. But that's it for Luke and BC right here. Let's go to the stage in the start of day 2, the Spence Crawford Press Tour from here in Times Square in New York City.
Errol Spence Jr. is one of the best boxers on planet Earth. Down goes Cal Crawford. Errol Spence with some sweet combinations.
He is the winner by technical knockout.
You've got the 3 belts. What's next?
And now the unified welterweight champion of the world.
Everybody know who I want next. I want Terence Crawford next.
I do believe this is the perfect time. You got 2 great fighters in their prime for all the marbles. It's going to be an exciting fight. I just can't wait for it to happen.
That's the fight we all want to see.
There's been a back and forth a lot with you and Bud Crawford.
I don't know your number. Save it.
I want all the smoke. But right now, I'm looking at Terence Crawford.
This is for undisputed. This is a big moment for not only myself, but for Errol Spence Jr.
Saturday, July 29th, they're going to crown the first 4-belt undisputed champion in 147-pound history.
The wait is over. Watch me fry this fish.
Yeah, I know what time it is, baby. Terence, I'm coming for that motherfucking belt.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to New York City. Saturday, July 29th on Showtime pay-per-view from T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. The undisputed welterweight championship of the world is on the line between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence "Bud" Crawford. And now, let's meet the champions. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage with a record of 39 wins, no losses, 30 wins coming by way of knockout. He is a 3-division world champion from Omaha, Nebraska. Please welcome the reigning and defending WBO welterweight champion of the world. Here is Terence "Bud" Crawford. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, with a record of 28 wins, no losses, 22 wins coming by way of knockout, from DeSoto, Texas. He is the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF welterweight champion of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Errol the Truth Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford, the undisputed welterweight championship of the world is on the line. Someone's got to go on Saturday, July 29th on Showtime pay-per-view, presented by Premier Boxing Champions. It's Spence Jr. versus Crawford for welterweight supremacy. And there they are, ladies and gentlemen, Errol Spence Jr., Terence Crawford. Both men looking to remain undefeated on Saturday, July 29th on pay-per-view. Now we would like the fighters, both Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, to take their seats. They will be joined by their camps, including their head trainers, Derek James for Errol Spence and Brian Bomack McIntyre for Terence Crawford. And now, ladies and gentlemen, to conduct the Q&A, we present to you the host of Showtime Championship Boxing, Brian Custer.
Thank you, Ray. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to New York City, the Big Apple, for this press conference kickoff, Spence Jr. versus Crawford. I am Brian Custer, host of Showtime Championship Boxing, and man, what a year it has been for the sport. What a year has it been for Showtime Championship Boxing and Showtime pay-per-view. You know, our motto is deliver to the fight fans what they want, the best fighting the best. We started the year with Benavidez Plant. We had Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia, and now the super fight, the best fighting the best. Errol Spence Jr. taking on Terence Bud Crawford. It is one of the most anticipated fights of this decade. It's a super fight, champion versus champion, both of them unbeaten. And the key is both fighters are in their prime. The winner not only making history as the first undisputed welterweight champion in this four-belt era, but also walks away with the crown as boxing's pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. The fight is Saturday, July 29th, Showtime pay-per-view from T-Mobile Arena in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. It is one of those era-defining type fights. And I'm talking in the spirit of Ali Frazier, Leonard Duran, Hagler Hearns, and of course Mayweather Pacquiao. It will, without a doubt, enhance the legacy of these two elite world champions. And the event is being brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions. It's being promoted by Man Down Promotions and Errol Spence Jr. and by TBC Promotions, Terence Bud Crawford Promotions, and TGB Promotions as well. It goes without saying, folks, this is the place you want to be in on July 29th in Las Vegas. You want to have a ticket to say, I was there. I saw when those two went at it. You can purchase your tickets through AXS.com. AXS.com. Here's the particulars. Terence Bud Crawford, the WBO welterweight champion. He's unbeaten. He's 39-0. He's got 30 knockouts. Taking on the Truth, Errol Spence Jr., the unified WBA, WBC, IBF welterweight champion of the world. unbeaten as well. 28 victories, no defeats, and 22 knockouts. Together, these men have an astounding combined record of 67 wins, no losses, and 52 knockouts. AXS.com is where you get your tickets. Let me bring to the podium now one of the promoters of this fight. He's the president of TGB Promotions, Tom Brown.
Thank you, Brian. Good morning, everyone. I'll make this quick today so we can get to what we're all really here for today, and that's to hear. He's got a chance at history by becoming the first two-weight division undisputed world champion. But one thing's for sure, the winner of this fight will be the undisputed pound-for-pound king of boxing. Thank you.
Coming to the podium now is a man who's going to give you more details about the fight, all of the programming that will surround the televised portion of the pay-per-view of the evening. He's the president of Showtime Sports, Stephen Espinoza.
Thanks, Brian. I agree wholeheartedly. I don't think there's any real discussion to be had. It's been a fantastic year for Showtime Boxing. Big fights, meaningful matchups week after week, together with our partners, Premier Boxing Champions and TGB Promotions. We put on 17 marquee events through July. 3 dates in February, 3 dates in March, April, June, and July, giving the boxing fans exactly what they're looking for. Coming up this weekend, we've got Tim Tszyu on the schedule. Looking forward for July, we've got Boots Ennis and Frank Martin headlining. In the middle of this great run of fights, this industry-leading schedule, we've got this fight, the one that boxing fans have been waiting for, a mega event. I've described this as the perfect fight, and I think it is absolutely true. That's no exaggeration. We have every element the boxing fan would want. Two of the best, most skilled fighters in the sport, both of them with aggressive, fan-friendly, all-action styles, knockout power. It's an evenly matched fight. You know, at various points over the last few weeks, the odds have swung in favor of both Spence and Crawford. There's high stakes, there's history, there's legacy, there's overcoming adversity, there's personal drama, there's a rivalry. Long and short of it, this is everything a boxing fan could wish for at this point. Errol won his first title in 2017 with the 11th round knockout of Kell Brook. He's had 6 successful title defenses against outstanding competition. Lamont Peterson, Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas, among others. One of the strongest resumes in the sport. Terence Crawford won his welterweight title in 2018. Also made 6 successful title defenses, all of them by KO or TKO. And in fact, Terence has stopped his last 10 opponents in a row. And now he's looking to become the undisputed champion in a second division. But really, don't take my word for it about what this fight is about. Let me give you how you guys, the media, have described this. A matchup that will decide supremacy. The biggest event the sport can offer. A matchup to perfection. The most exciting fight this decade. An opportunity to become a superstar. That's what's at stake July 29th. It all kicks off with the first episode of All Access, Saturday, July 8th. Second episode, Saturday, July 15th. And of course, the pay-per-view, Saturday, July 29th, at a special time, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you.
It's time to hear from the camps. First, let me acknowledge on the Crawford side, Bud Crawford's assistant trainer, Isaul Dieguez. Good to have you, my friend. Coming to the podium now is the head trainer for the WBO World Champion. This man is the co-owner of B&B Boxing Academy in Nebraska. World-renowned trainer, he is Brian Bomac McIntyre.
Oh, what's up, everybody? Glad everybody came out to the press conference to support this big fight coming up. Thanks Showtime, Stephen Espinoza, PBC, Errol Spence, Derek James. I especially want to thank my man, the champ, Bud Crawford, for putting his foot on the pedal, for making this fight happen. So I really ain't got too much to say that more than what I said yesterday. But I will tell you this. This is how the fight gonna go. The fight is gonna be tough. It's gonna be real tough. Errol's a good-ass fighter. And I tilt my hat to him for what he accomplished in his boxing career. I tilt my hat to you, Derek, man, for doing a good job with your fighters. The first couple rounds gonna be real tough. But then we're going to start walking away with the fight, like we always do. Like my man said, Bud didn't stop the last 10 opponents. Just maybe, Errol going to be number 11. So listen, y'all tune in July 29th. Get your tickets. Y'all going to miss something if y'all don't attend. Y'all going to miss one of the most spectacular performances that you ever seen come out of Bud Crawford.
Thank you, Bomac. Now from the Spence side. And let me acknowledge as well the father of Errol Spence Jr., Mr. Errol Spence Sr. See you there. Good to see you, sir. Jordan Isom as well here. Let me bring to the podium now, he's the trainer of the Unified Champion. 2017 Ring Magazine Trainer of the Year. 2019 Sports Illustrated Trainer of the Year. And also the 2022 Boxing Writers and ESPN Trainer of the Year. He's the owner of the world-class boxing gym in Dallas, Texas, Mr. Derek James.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here. This is a very exciting event. I can't wait. I mean, I think it's something that everybody's been hoping to see, wanting to see. And now it's not here, but everything is going on. Everybody's in camp. Can't wait to get it started because I know that Crawford's coming on with his A game, and Errol is going to be on his A game. You're going to see a phenomenal competition. And for me, I'm really kind of tired of talking about it. It's work time. So I can't wait. And I know it's going to be a phenomenal night of boxing. I'm going to see Errol Spence shine. As he says, the thing that really gets me going is that one-sided ass-kicking that he normally puts on. And, yeah, we're fighting a phenomenal fighter. But at the same time, we're going to be who we are. Errol is not going to change. He's going to put the pressure, break him down. He's going to win the fight. No different than anything else, anybody else. Even though this is the best and most accomplished boxer in boxing, it's Terence Crawford. 135-pound champ, 140 undisputed champ, and 147 WBO champ. With all that said, that's beautiful because we are here now, 4 guys standing on the podium, and everybody's watching. And they're going to come out and see a masterpiece, and Errol Spence put together another phenomenal victory over another tough and very vicious and deadly fighter. It's all about being successful. That's what it's all about, and that's what you'll see on July 29th. Errol Spence becoming the undisputed champion of the world, just like the first day when he walked into professional boxing. It's exactly what he said he wanted to do. And that is exactly what he'll be July 29th, is the first ever in this era 4-belt undisputed champ. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Listen, you came here to hear from the fighters. Let's get right to it. Coming to the podium now is a man who's got a 76% knockout percentage. Moved up to welterweight. You heard it. He has stopped every man he has faced since he's been at 147. Folks, this man is the former, undisputed, super lightweight champion of the world. He was the 2014 Fighter of the Year. He is the current WBO welterweight champion of the world, Mr. Terence "Bud" Crawford.
What's up, everybody? Let me say that again. What's up, everybody? That's what I'm talking about. I got to be excited for this fight. This is a fight that's been marinating for years. Like I said before, I'm going to say it again. This is greatness. This is definitely greatness that you guys will be witnessing July 29th. I've been preparing my whole life for this moment right here. Moments like these, they don't come often. And this is my time. Like I said before, this is my time. This is the Terence Crawford era. Ain't no holding me back. Not Errol, not Derek, nobody stopping me from accomplishing what I want to accomplish July 29th. A lot of people say why it took so long. Doesn't matter, we're here now. And July 29th, I can assure you, I can promise you, y'all gonna walk away and y'all gonna say, that kid is special. And y'all gonna mark me as one of the greatest of all time, right along with the Floyds, the Alis, the Fraziers. And y'all can sit there and say, oh, well, you ain't fought nobody. And my reply to that is, I guess Errol is just another nobody that I fought. Peace.
Thank you, champ. Coming to the podium. This man has a 78% knockout percentage. 6 of his last 7 opponents, former world champions. 3 of them were current world champions. He took away their straps. He is the unified welterweight champion of the world. He's known as the Truth. Big fish, man down, Errol Spence Jr.
How everybody doing today? I feel like this is the biggest fight in boxing. If you look at Terrence's style, look at my style, you already know, if you know our mentalities. He's not going to want to break. I'm definitely not going to want to break. But I feel like somebody have to break come fight night. And we need all y'all to support us because, I mean, we got to show these people in suits, we got to show these other fighters that there is a reward in taking risks. So the best got to fight the best, and we got to show people that, especially people in suits and these other boxers, that you fight the best, it's a reward for that. You know, and I'm just grateful to be here, man. Very blessed for this opportunity to be the first ever undisputed welterweight champion of the world and fighting a great fighter like Terence Crawford. I'm ready to put on a great show, a great performance, and show people how great I am and show people why I will be one of the best welterweights ever of all time. I'm telling you, do not want to miss this fight. This is going to be a great fight. I'm putting on a great show. I'm going to show everybody why I be breaking people. Make sure y'all tune in July 29th. It's going to be another man down, and it's strap season time.
Thank you, champ. Let's talk. And let's talk about this fight. We'll start with the trainers. Bomac, you said without a doubt your guy is going to win on July 29th. Enlighten the people. Tell us why you believe Terence Bud Crawford is going to win this fight and you believe a stoppage.
Brian, I want to ask you a question and everybody else out there. What beats ready?
What's beat ready?
What beats ready?
Staying ready.
Been there and back. We've been there and back. We've been undisputed champion before. We've been in this position before. So this ain't nothing new to us. We just being more prepared because we know Errol's a good fighter. But we've been there. We've been in these lights before. Now, PBC, I commend them for getting Errol to this point. But we had to scrape through the dirt to get to undisputed at 140. We had to scrape through 147 to get to this point. So we was ready 10, 11 fights ago. We just going through the motions to pick up those 3 straps that he got over there and the Leon title. This is why I know that Terence will be victorious July 29th.
Derek James, your rebuttal to that. Tell us why Errol Spence Jr. will be victorious July 29th.
Well, Errol Spence will be victorious because of the way he was brought up. He was brought up to be in the space that he's in because of the way he was developed. With each opposition being better and better and better and better. It wasn't like beating guys you were supposed to beat, beating guys everybody knew you were going to beat. So at this point, every fight he's fought was a step towards this day, this night, July 29th. That's what it was all about. From him saying he wanted to be the undisputed champion of the world when he started to every step that Al and TGB, Sylvia Brad, every step they took towards Errol being the man that he is, facing the tough opposition, building more depth. Because this is like, we talk about skill, both fighters are skill. This fight is about depth. Who can endure the tough adversity that these fights is going to put them in through? And at the same time, somebody's faced these things and some people haven't faced these things. And like what I'll say is that depth is the key. Depth is what the thing is going to push you through when you're tired, you're getting beat. How much more pain can you endure? The pain of being unsuccessful is far more worse than the pain it takes to be successful. So we're pushing through the pain, we're going to be successful. And that's why he'll be champion, again, undisputed champ on July 29th. It's because of everything he went through to get to this particular point.
Bud, what is the victory on July 29th mean to you specifically, especially coming against Errol Spence Jr.?
Well, a victory July 29th for me means everything for me and my career to date. Being that a lot of people doubt me, and that's when I rise to the occasion, when I got all the odds stacked against me. Errol's a tremendous fighter. Like I told everybody before, I'm a fan, but it's just business. I know I can beat him. I feel I can beat him. I see myself beating him. I visualized it numerous and numerous times before fighting Sean Porter. I told him, I said, listen, they only want to gauge me for Errol. I knew this time would be here, and I'm ready, more than ready. So when that time comes, July 29th, and my hand is rose, and I'm the new undisputed welterweight champion of the world, all I'm going to say is I told you so. That's it.
If I'm not mistaken, isn't it your mother's birthday as well?
That's right.
Did you promise her something?
You know I ain't losing on my mama's birthday.
Errol, same question to you. What does it mean to be victorious on the 29th? But more importantly, what does it mean to get that victory over Terence Bud Crawford?
It means everything. I mean, I feel like I done everything I said I was going to do. And now the only last thing to do is to beat Terence Crawford. Yeah, he's a great fighter, has great ability, great willpower. But he's a great man too, but I'm going to break him. And I'm going to show everybody why I am the best fighter in boxing, period. And show everybody why I am the number one guy in boxing. Yeah, he going to come and fight, but I'm going to break his will. I want to break him mentally, physically, and just show people why I am a great fighter. Despite what I've been to, the adversities and things like that, I always kept on the same path and to be the undisputed welterweight champion of the world. That's been a lifelong dream of mine. It's been something I've been wanting for a long time, something I've been clamoring over. And regardless of any situation, I always stayed the course and knew that this fight was going to happen and that I will become victorious.
Errol, let me follow up on that. Because listening to Bud, he says, listen, you may talk about his resume, but he's been undisputed before. So this is nothing new to him. Therefore, he's coming in, already been there at the pinnacle. This is new to you. Your response to that?
I mean, that's cool, but I'm not the guy he fought to become undisputed. I'm not that guy. You know, I feel like that guy was not that good. You know, Regis stopped him in the first round too. Regis stopped him in the first round too, man. Like, who that guy beat to be a two-time world champion?
He beat two champions.
Who?
He beat Troy Arnowski and he beat Ricky Burns, which was a three-time world champion.
Troy who? Come on now, man. Come on, bro.
And I think he went to Russia and
come
beat
on.
him. And I think he went to Scotland and beat him. Then
Come on, man.
he tried to be great and come to Omaha and beat me. I don't think you fought nobody that was a two-time world champion.
When he ever been tested, he got stopped.
I don't think you ever fought a champion that was two-weight divisions, right?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
All the titles I took from the champion. So what you saying?
Okay.
Every title I took, Sean Porter,
He was
champion.
a one-time one-weight champion.
It don't matter. I'm taking it. I'm
Okay.
taking it.
Well, you got the opportunity.
Like I said,
to take
you line
this
them up, I'm gonna knock them down every time. It don't matter what happens, personal life, whatever. Hey man, give me him. You sure you want him? Yeah, this is easy work. Get him out of there.
This ain't no easy work.
Hey, you want
over
him?
here.
Yeah. Oh, I know it's not easy work. I definitely know it's not easy work.
Okay.
I definitely know that.
Just
I
making
ain't
sure.
that. I ain't that naive.
All right.
I'm realistic.
Okay.
I love this
I
because
respect
one of the things you made when we were in L.A., Bud, you said, hey, look, this guy is so-called the big fish, but I'm gutting him on July 29th. Talk to us about that.
Well, you know, I like to go fishing. Everybody know those are my hobbies.
Man, that's cat. He's not catching me with no fishing pole,
Hey, listen.
man. I'm the biggest. You
Listen.
can't catch me with no fishing pole.
Listen.
What it look like catching Moby Dick with a fucking fishing pole, man? Get the fuck out of here, bro.
They all been caught before.
Man, not with no fishing pole.
Every last one of them. And
Not with
July
no fishing
29th,
pole.
he gonna be caught too. I got a big enough hook for him, and I'm already reeling them in.
Don't
July
even sound
29th,
good. Your ass better have a submarine.
I'm gonna put him on the bank. I'm gonna put him on the bank. I'm gonna gut him, and I'm gonna fillet him.
Man, you
like
better
I
have a
said.
submarine.
All right, we gonna catch him. Well, matter of fact, we already caught him. We just reeling them in right now. And July 29th, that's when we're gonna get him to the bank. We'll probably weigh him, you know, put him on a scale.
You ain't got a scale big.
Chop his head off. Cut him from, you know, the gut, the little butt up. You know what I mean? Take the little vice grips, pull the skin off, take the little knife.
It don't even sound good.
Let me ask you
It's
this,
good.
Bud. Let me ask you
Y'all
this,
like
Bud.
fish? How many of y'all like fish? I bet your pops like fish too. You like fish, don't you, pops? Come on, you can say you like fish. You know what I mean? Your son, the big fish, so he love fish too. You know, so we gon' you know what I mean? We gon' give his pops a piece of fish too.
We Jamaican, man. We smoke bud. You already know how that go. It's legal in Vegas too, so we gonna smoke your ass up.
Hey, y'all do.
It's legal in Vegas too, so we gonna smoke. We gonna roll you up and smoke you up too, man. Hey, y'all get that new buzz strand, man.
Hey, but you know what the crazy part about it is? You know what I mean? Y'all do smoke bud in Jamaica. I forgot. But this ain't
new bud strain.
This ain't no bud. This ain't no kind bud. You feel me? This ain't the bud that you just can buy on the streets. This
We ain't buying that on the
This
street.
that marinated bud that you hit one puff, you might be seeing stars like how high. Just know.
Man, Terence, let me ask you this.
Whack. We don't do that.
You're victorious on the 29th. You will be.
We don't smoke whack.
The first.
Talking about
the first male to be undisputed in 2 different weight divisions.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
Well, it's going to mean everything to me July 29th. And I can guarantee you, July 29th, you're going to see a Terence Crawford that you have never seen before. Everybody always asking me, is this the best Terence Crawford? And I said, no, I got a lot to show. Errol may be that fighter to bring the best out of Terence Crawford. We shall see.
Errol, he said he's going to show on the 29th that this is the Bud Crawford era. What are you showing on the 29th?
Man, he can show what he want to show. You know, it might be his era after this fight. You know, after I beat him, you know, he might go on and, you know, win other titles and go up the weight class, win some more titles, and, you know, do what he do. But he's not winning July 29th. So he can go and stop that nonsense.
What does it mean to you to be the first undisputed welterweight champion in this 4-belt era?
It's great. I mean, it means everything. This is what, you know, we lace up the gloves for. This was, we used to watch, you know, as an amateur, you know, I used to always watch the old school fights and, you know, just glamour over and be like, man, one day I'm going to be in a fight like that. And I used to watch something called Legendary Nights. Come on HBO where they're talking about Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns, not the fight, just the events that happened before the fight and showing the press conferences and the weigh-ins and showing the training camps and how it was. So, you know, I'm finally in the same scenario that the fights I used to watch back then, and it's just a great feeling, man, just to be in those shoes and, you know, seeing that and seeing everything come into existence and knowing that I can be the first ever undisputed welterweight champion of the world. And, you know, despite all the disses and the back and forth I go with Terence Crawford, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not going to lie, there is, you know, mutual, it is a respect there, you know, for him. But all that comes out the door once it's fight night and before the bell ring, but once the bell ring, the respect definitely goes out the door. And it's wartime. It's time to fight. It's time to put on not only a great show, but it's time to prove everybody why I am a dominating fighter.
Guys, I only really have one question for you. And this is for, obviously, the media here, people watching. Hell, they're streaming this in Times Square right now. So for all those people in New York City, all across the country, people spend their hard-earned money, pay this pay-per-view, come out to Las Vegas. Terence Bud Crawford, what can you guarantee they're going to get on July 29th? Because Errol Spence Jr. says he's breaking your will that night.
Well, that makes for a great fight. So July 29th, everybody, if you ain't got a ticket, if you didn't get a chance to get a flight to Vegas, buy the pay-per-view. You got 2 young, hungry lions going head-to-head for the throne. Errol Spence is a tremendous fighter. I'm a great fighter. He's accomplished a lot at the welterweight division. I accomplished a lot in the sport of boxing as a whole. This is a fight that everybody's been yearning for, and me and Errol coming together and making this fight for y'all, knowing the type of styles we both bring in to the table and the caliber of experience and technique that goes forth into training and coming to put on a great performance for you guys. He's going to bring it. I'm going to bring it. He's going to try to break my will like he said he is. I'm going to try to break his face. So that makes for a great, exciting fight. You know, he's always in exciting fights. Me, myself, I'm always in exciting fights. And the best man will win July 29th by the pay-per-view.
Let me cut to the chase. You've stopped everybody you faced at 147. Do you stop Errol Spence Jr. on July 29th?
If he get out of line, I swear to God, he going to be the number 11th.
Errol Spence Jr., same question. For all those people coming out to Vegas, buying the pay-per-view, this man says, you get out of line, he's stopping you July 29th. What can you guarantee these folks are going to get on the 29th of July?
Well, he already know I'm getting out of line. I've been getting out of line my whole life, so so it is what it is. If you say, hey, you gonna have to try. You gonna have to try. I guarantee you that. But like I say, man, y'all got to come out and support this fight. Either come to the fight or order the fight, man. We got to support these fighters out here. I'm gonna tell y'all stories out at LA Fitness, and I was running. And then a guy had stopped me. He was like, man, I bought, your high-ass shirts. And and he was just talking about how my shirts was high. And I was talking to him. We was just chopping it up. And I was like, that's crazy you complain about my shirt. But, I'm sure if you go out, you go somewhere nice, you'll buy a Louis Vuitton shirt for $800, $1,000, and you not even complain. And that same guy who owned Louis Vuitton and own these high-end fashion places wouldn't even give you the time of day or even talk to you like I'm talking to you, you know what I'm saying, right now. So, I mean, I'm just asking everybody to show some support and show people and show, the business boxing people and, everybody that, that it is a reward in taking risks. Just like how we go to these basketball games, football games, and pay $20,000 to sit front row and get these seats, and nobody's complaining. Support these fighters, man, because this is how they earn their living. They literally putting their life on the line to give y'all a great show. They literally losing brain cells and could lose their life for y'all. So, what I'm saying, support us, please. Come out to the fight, watch the fight. Everybody talk about this fight. These are two great fighters fighting each other. We bringing it back. This has been a great year for boxing. And for me, this is the best fight in boxing, especially style-wise. So let's just everybody tune in, man. This is going to be a great show on by me. I'm sure he's going to put on a great show and try to put on a great performance. But like I said, I'm the biggest. He ain't catching me with no damn fishing pole. I'm flipping his whole boat. I'm sinking him. He better come with a submarine, the USR, China, everything. Because like I said, man, I'm the biggest shark. I'm Moby Dick. I'm the king. Ain't nobody stop me. It's strap season, man down. Make sure y'all tune in. Y'all going to see another great show and another performance.
I did catch that. You saying man down on the 29th?
Man down, strap. Man, y'all know the motto. Man down, strap season. Line them up. All that, man. Big fish. The biggest.
Fish fillet.
Hey, man. Hey.
Fish fillet.
Smoking on bud.
There you have it. It is July 29th. It is the
put him in the dirt.
most anticipated fight of the year, really of this decade. It is Errol Spence Jr., Terence Bud Crawford. Guys, let's get a face-off. Let's put the belts. Let's get us a face-off and get the camps as well. Thank everybody for watching as well.
We're going to have the podium step back. Bud, just take a second. We're going to move the podium back for a second. Can I get my stage hand there? Thank you, fellas. Well, he'll get some more. Right. Yep. How far? Amanda? Good?
Hey, turn my mic back on. Turn my mic back. And we got to know where, I mean, we getting 3% to these organizations. I mean, we got to know where this money going to. I mean, a lot of times they getting, man, you got Canelo and Josh and all these guys, you know, making $50 million, and these belts getting 3% of that. Where's it going to? How's it helping the fighters out? What are they doing with it?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's work time. It's work time, y'all. It's work time. It's work time, y'all. It's work time. Oh, up front. Okay. It's work time.
Sam, make space for
Work time, y'all. It's work time. It's work time, y'all. It's work time. Y'all ready for this? Y'all got your hot sauce? Y'all got your hot sauce? All right.
And there they are, the welterweight champions of the world, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. July 29th cannot come fast enough, just 45 days away. Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell back with you. And just a reminder, we're going to get both fighters on the interview stage in just a second. Luke, day 2 complete. Your reaction to what we saw up on the dais?
Yeah, at least it needs Brace's dental plan. It was a lot of fish fillet smoking on Bud back and forth. Boy, that was a lot spicier than yesterday. That was a lot. There was much more chatter between them, much more direct. And of course they did their famous slogans, man down, all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, it was a little bit more pointed today. And then Bud also touching one of Spence's belts.
I have a question for him.
I think anytime you cross the line into touching the other one,
is that marking your territory in a way?
It's a little bit. It's a little bit. Here we go. We got some folks joining us on stage.
We promised them. They are here.
Oh, they are.
The welterweight champions of the world getting mic'd up. The future Hall of Famers. But who will get one up come July 29th? Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford fired up for this one. The history at stake and the promise of a finish of action of everything boxing fans are looking for. Many years in the making, but it's here right now, and we have both champions with us. Guys, day 2 of the press conference, it got fun. It got a little spicy. But, Terence, I want to ask you one thing. Amid all those fishing analogies, I did hear one thing. I'm reeling him in. To me, that says, I know I'm in his head. I saw you grab the lapel of Errol Spence. What was that motion?
With the belt.
No, I don't think I'm in his head. I just think that it's been a long time coming. I've been calling for the fight. I've been asking for the fight. For whatever reason, it didn't happen, but he took the bait. And now, July 29th, we got the fight, and I'm going to get him to the bank.
All right, Errol, I've covered you a long time. I'll never forget ahead of your victory over Sean Porter, you said, look, I'm faster than you, I'm all these things, but that doesn't even matter because when it comes down to it, I've got more dog than you, and I know it. That night you proved it, you got your hand raised. Do you believe you have more dog than this man who's never been stopped, never been beaten, that's possible here July 29th?
Oh, definitely. I feel like I'm the apex. I feel like he definitely going to come to fight. He definitely going to, try to put on, he going to put on a great performance, but, I feel like I'm just a better fighter overall. I feel like I'm going to break him. You know, he said he gonna reel me in and bring me to the bank. So we're definitely gonna see. I don't think you can reel me in. I don't think nobody got a big enough fishing pole to reel me in.
Terence, have you seen his the merchandise he's put out with the Smoking on Bud with the big shark on it?
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
What do you think of it? You like
it's
it?
Funny.
It's funny.
It's funny. You know what I mean? Shout out to the creativity people that he got behind him.
I had to come back because he had the the Aquaman with the shark.
Bellagio?
Yeah, with the shark. So I told my people, man, yeah, we got to come back with something fast. So.
It was pretty funny, I'll admit. All right, Errol, let me ask you. You've seen his career, everyone's seen his career. I'm going to ask him the same question in just a second, but start with you. What would you say is his best win? What's his best win?
I mean, I feel like all his fights was great. I mean, I've been a fan of Terence Crawford. I'm a fan of boxing too, so I watch everybody. Like people even ask me, "You been studying him? You been watching him?" I'm like, I've been watching him. You know, I'm a guy who, you know, sit on the toilet and, you know, just, and watch boxing.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah. You know, I'm a guy who, you know, sit and watch boxing or just chilling. I'm watching boxing and I'm just watching different people. That's why I was like, I never had to really watch film on Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, because I watched all their fights all the time. So I was already familiar with them and what they do. So, you know, I feel like most of all his fights was great fights. And, you know, he showed a lot of, like, even with, like, Gamboa and all them, he showed a lot of determination because you see it when a fighter get hurt, you know, you see how they react, you know, and he reacted in a crazy way. So, you know, I don't see any fault in that because, you know, you get fighters who get hurt and they get timid, you know, they always jumping or they keep they're more scared and not active as they used to be. But with him, you know, he gets meaner when he get hurt.
Terence, same question. What's his best win?
Well, I think
for this moment, this fight, in some cases, this opponent, all your career, all your life. When was that starting point, though? Because this rivalry goes back 4 or 5 years. I mean, I'm not even sure if there is a port. Well, when was the first time you started thinking about, I'll be seeing him at the end?
Well, my dream and my goal was to be here years ago at the pinnacle of boxing. I wanted the Manny Pacquiao fight. It didn't come to fruition, but I moved up in weight and I wanted a big fight. I wanted Errol Spence. I wanted Keith Thurman. I wanted Danny Garcia because I knew those was the fights that was going to put me on this stage. I didn't get those fights for X amount of reasons, but everything happened for a reason. We here now, and me and Errol, we on the biggest stage that neither one of us been on before. And July 29th, we're going to put on a tremendous show and show the world why we the two best fighters in the division.
Indeed, indeed. One thing I've loved, Errol, is the call back to history, calling this an old school fight, comparing this to Leonard versus Hearns, and so many of those 70s, 80s, 90s fighters are our heroes because they put on courageous, incredible main events. Are you both subtly telling the audience here that we're skilled enough that we can put on a chess match for 12 rounds? But no, we're both going after it like it's 1981 right now, like it's, you know, old school is new school once again. I feel like this is just guaranteed fireworks. Are you expecting the exact same thing?
Definitely. You know, Terence got a mean streak. I got a mean streak, and I feel like that's what the 80s and the early 90s. That's what it was about. You know, it was about the best fighting the best, and they put on great shows and they performed very well, and nobody wanted to wilt to each other, so they was just. You know, they was going to war. They was fighting. It was literally a war, you know. Where you had Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, you had Hagler, you had Duran. And, you know, the best wanted to fight the best and the best wanted to beat the best. And they didn't just want a decision or victory. They really wanted to beat and punish their opponent. So I feel like this is what people have here. And a lot of times, you know, they want to see you, you know, mean mug and look mean and be angry. But boxing not like that. Boxing's not, you know, not really like that. That's more of doing it, you know, for the fans.
Sure.
You know, like me, my best performance, especially in sparring, somebody I'm cool with, because I'm not trying to get beat up by somebody that I know or somebody that I might talk to. I'm trying to really put a hurting on him. So I feel like this is going to be an action-packed fight. I'm going to try to put on the best performance of my career. I know he's going to try to put on the best performance of his career. And everybody going to want to tune into this fight, especially the older people who talk about, oh, man, I remember when this guy fought or when Ray Leonard and all them fought and how great them fights was and Evander Holyfield and all these. They're going to want to tune in and watch this fight because this is going to be an old-school fight.
I mean, Terence, do you have that same feeling that it wouldn't be just enough to be in this duel where at the end the fans go, I'm not sure who won? You're coming in there with the mentality, I'm going to break him.
Yeah, of course. Of course. That's always the motto. If you been taking notes and watching Errol Spence Jr. Whole career, he always bringing it. He always stepping on the gas pedal. He always making it for an exciting fight. And you always seeing when somebody push, I'm right there.
Sure.
And that makes for an exciting fight. You got Errol Spence trying to break me. You got me trying to break him. And like he said, somebody going to break, and it ain't going to be me. So that makes for a great, exciting fight.
I think the box office might break too, by the way.
It certainly might. Last question very quickly, Errol. He is one of the best at making adjustments through the course of a fight, particularly late. How do you deal with a fighter who is so good at making adjustments and changing round over round?
You just got to stay focused. I feel like that's what makes the great fighters great. I feel like that's what even make the great athletes great because they keep their focus 24/7. They never lose focus. And once you lose that split focus, you can get caught or, something can happen. So for me, it's just about staying focused, being in dog shape like I'm always in. Of course, he always come in shape. He has great, late rounds. And I always have great late rounds too. So this is one of those fights where, it could easily be, a 15-round fight because I feel like in the later rounds, especially when we get comfortable with each other, I think, it's going to be an all-out, basically war and a war of nutrition.
Amazing. 45 more days. We can't wait to see you guys in Las Vegas, July 29th. Thank you for joining us. Congratulations on getting to this point, and we wish you both the hell of a lot.
See y'all in Vegas.
See y'all in Vegas.
Thank you very much.
Right.
It's the champions, Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford, Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell, wrapping up with you. And Luke, if that doesn't fire you up, if you don't hearing the inside, basically hearing what Errol Spence does on the throne.
I know. I was like, Errol, it's a little much. Fella,
that shows the focus, though. Wherever he is thinking about Terence Crawford.
And also, there should be said this. I mean, he kind of made it in a funny way, but there is something to be said for it. Namely, I have noticed it's a little bit simplistic to say that there is a real big difference between the fighters who watch tape and those who don't. But what I will say is the very best ones always watch a lot of it, right? That's the one kind of common note. And, of course, I don't need to know where he's watching it, but the amount of hours he puts into it, I believe him. I believe it. I mean, we also said this yesterday. Like, these two guys have watched each other's careers from afar. You know what I mean? You're not fighting a stranger. You're not like maybe you're getting to know him a little bit better this week or through this process, but you kind of had a pretty clear idea of what you were up against long before the contract was ever signed. I love that familiarity factor, both because of the surprise it might mean on July 29th and then the subsequent adjustments therein through the course of the fight.
And I like the read on the demeanor of both. We had some posturing, some trading back and forth. I mean, Errol Spence has a new nickname now, Moby Dick, to add on top of Big Fish and all the other ones right there. But even though they can go back and forth and say, no, I'm actually the better one, you're going to find out, Errol said it on stage, and they kind of echoed it right here. There's a lot of respect for each other. Right. And that respect is important because they know they have to dig to a level even deeper than they have had to before, even against the great Sean Porter, against Kell Brook, a common opponent for both of them, which for Errol Spence, when he won his first title that night, we saw him do exactly that, dig deep. Well, they're going to have to dig even deeper this time, but I kind of like at the same time that even though they can be sharp when necessary, pop the crowd with a joke, there is, a good rapport. There is sort of like, okay, we're business partners to some degree because we got to this dance together. Let's go sell it. But also, let's give people their money's worth in that regard, too.
It's also just they're promoting the right way. They're promoting the right way. The wrong way to promote is that my opponent is a bum. I'm just going to walk over him. Well, if your opponent is a bum, why are we going to pay for it? Like, that doesn't make any sense. The real key, the real needle to thread is my opponent is amazing and I'm going to walk over him, right? Which is essentially what both of these guys are promising. One of them is going to break and it's not going to be me. I'm going to do this. Man down, put him in the dirt, fried fish, smoke a bud. You pick your choice.
Not a kind bud, though, just so we know.
Yes, I mean, he was very specific. I was like, Errol, I know what you're saying there. But in all seriousness, you know, listen, this fight has so many things that we could pick up, this among other ones, where the wind is at its back to make it great. You know what I mean? We're not fighting headwinds to get this one great. It's already great.
Anything surprise you about this day two? We quickly recapped it before the fighter sat down, but was there anything that you're like, ooh, is that a seed being planted?
Something Derek James said, and I'm hoping we'll get a chance to talk to him. I don't know if we will. We're going to work on that. But Derek James said something about, listen, it's not really about reinventing the wheel here or, you know, changing boxing. It's about depth. When the pain gets difficult and the trials get harder, who just has more in the tank to deal with that? Now, I want to make something clear. It is absolutely wrong to look at the way Errol Spence fights and not call it high IQ. It absolutely is very high IQ. His foot positioning, body shot work, shot location, everything, and the rhythm he fights at and how he breaks it. I mean, there's very, very high-level boxing detail going on there. But on top of it, what makes him so fearsome is he is an absolute... He's got the spirit of a brawler with the technique of a finely tuned machine. That's really...
He almost, and I compare this, not often do I make this comparison, but to the great Eric Morales, the great Mexican legend. When he got hit, he almost received it in a spiteful response, like, right. Oh, okay, we'll find out now, where it's still a sporting contest, but it's a real fight. Terence Crawford echoes that in the same way. Like, if you can get to him, and very few have. I think he's been dropped once on the highest level by Mean Machine. Yep. Got hurt against Gamboa, as Spence mentioned, but really rose to the occasion there in that lightweight title bout. He gets better almost, yes. Right? You know, he gets nastier, that edge.
But Derek James's point was interesting, which was, if you think about whose style is built for maximum delivering of punishment, and by that I mean volume, round over round, the pounding, right? That's Errol Spence. I think that they believe that they're not going to try and overthink the technique. They'll make some considerations on the fly. They'll have some idea what they're looking for. And then the key is just, as he said, stay focused. Stay working. Just keep working, and eventually, as you knock on that door, you will get the answer you're looking for. Bomac, obviously, you know, believing in their vision of things. It says to me that, like, Derek James obviously believes in Errol Spence. How could you not at this point? I mean, that's a very obvious thing. I don't mean it that way. What I do mean is, like, true belief that ability to consistently apply punishment and pressure over time, no one can deal with that, not even the great Bud Crawford.
You can see Errol Spence right there, him and Terence Crawford putting on the work in terms of selling the fight, making the media rounds after day two. Today's bi-coastal press conference comes to a close. But speaking of a great trainer, a great mind in the sport, the reigning and defending 2022
and a very well-dressed man.
One of the best Windsor knots in the game. I don't think you get credit for that. It is Derek James, Texas's own. Derek, this is the Dallas, Texas.
And Oak Cliff. Okay. So really,
I was giving you the whole country.
Oh,
there you go.
I'll just take Dallas.
Look, you work with very high-level, successful clients. It's a big part of your success, but you're a great game planner. This is next-level game planning, okay? Yeah. Is Terence Crawford the kind of guy that one game plan is going to work, or are you really going to have to bring out everything that Errol has shown up to this point in his career?
Well, I think that I focus so much on scenarios instead of like a strategy or game plan. If this were to happen, that would happen, this would happen. So I create these scenarios, and I'm constantly testing them nonstop. Test to see how he reacts to it. And I'm mimicking Crawford. You know what I'm saying? I'm mimicking him. So it's like, so when the situation presents itself, he doesn't even think twice. Say, oh, okay. Well, we knew this. We knew that. So that's what it's about.
So, but I asked Errol this question. Like, Bud Crawford is very good at making adjustments, right? Very, very good. And like Errol, they're very good at delivering late.
Right.
How do you keep up with a guy like Bud who's making changes through the course of a fight, especially in the final, let's say, 4 to 5 rounds?
So I think that only time you generally make adjustments is when you're doing something wrong, right? So if we're able to capitalize at so many different moments that he has to keep adjusting, that's brutality and pain and boom, boom, boom. You're getting hit. So you only adjust when you're doing something, because if you're doing it right, you're not going to switch up. So we just have to keep creating the scenarios that keep having him to think he has to adjust, which that means he keep taking punches and punishment.
Bud Crawford, he can switch stance, but he often fights the lefties as a lefty.
Right.
You expect him to fight you as a lefty?
I expect him to do what he does best. And I think that, and I say that because I think when I watch him fight, I see what stance he looks more comfortable in, but I see what stance he fights other people in. So it's like you prepare for both of them. I mean, we have to be prepared for both. We have to be prepared for every scenario and every situation, because if not, we're sitting there scratching our head and you don't know what to do. So it's all about preparation is the key to the fight.
We've seen both of these are two of the most well-rounded fighters in boxing today. That's why I call them two all-time greats in the flesh, almost living legends in that sense. And Errol's been able to put forth performances that had specific flavors for whatever reason. Mikey Garcia, he was determined to show you, I'm the better boxer than anyone. But against Yordenis Ugas, the last time out, to get you to this point, the unification, man, Errol Spence was a train that walked right through him no matter what he was going to throw. How important, or I guess why, was that game plan instituted? Because you feel like we got to see everything that Errol can do on the build-up and the lead into this one.
I think that with Ugas, for me, was more difficult because I think he had more depth. You got to think about, we were not only fighting Ugas, we were fighting his tragedies, his trauma in his life, right? What he had to go through to get to America. So, and to be there. Like, no other person in boxing probably faced what he's been facing. So you're fighting him, but at the same time, you're fighting the skill set that he's been brought up to, Cuban skill set, and how slick he was, how he would create, like, distance and do all these other things. So it was very different to have a game plan for him because he was so crafty, right? And he fought like the old fighters, counterpunching, which not a lot of that going on right now, but he was a pretty tough opposition, and he, like I said, each fight is a step towards here because the skill set we face prepares us for this skill set here. And so he switches up lefty and righty, but the way he was able to beat Ugas, because I always told him, I said, you won't be able to beat Ugas, you have to break him because he's not going to quit, and even he want to quit. So this is another situation where you have another great fighter to where you want to take the fight out of him. And even when he fought Sean Porter, like the 9th or 10th round, you can kind of see he was still in it, but he wasn't with the same veracity before. Towards the end, he was just in it to not really get stopped, right? You know what I mean? So he took it out of him too. So it's just like, just keep doing it over and over.
It sounds to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so if I get this wrong, correct me, please. But it sounds like what you're saying is for as good as Bud Crawford is, and he is excellent, he just hasn't quite experienced the kind of consistent punishment delivery that a guy like Spence dishes out.
Well, I mean, I think that anybody can say that. I mean, he may even say that, right? He hasn't faced the type of opposition that's constantly on him, constantly fighting him, constantly. So I think that that's one thing that, you know, he'll have to face, and he knows it. I mean, he knows, and at the same time, that's a play for him because he gets guys to walk into what he wants them to walk into, right? So it's like, for us, we just have to be able to be ourselves. I think that he has to be perfect. We both these guys have to be perfect, but he has to be, I think, even more sharper and more crisper and more than he's ever shown before. Like, you can't be throwing wild shots and closing your eyes, throwing punches. You can't do that. So when you're fighting Errol, and Errol has to be, can't reach, you know, so it's like both of these guys have to be perfect.
They got to walk that tightrope.
That's
We
right.
can't wait.
No
Before we
doubt.
let you go, Coach, you're growing stable of incredible fighters. The undisputed champions, Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence, Frank Martin's coming back, and
Frank Martin's got a big fight.
Lightweight tank coming on.
Right.
Ryan Garcia added to the mix there.
Yeah.
That was a little surprising for us. You know, I didn't expect Ryan to leave Joe Goosen so soon, but you got the call. It's going to happen. That means you're going to be a part of even more big fights. What attracts you to this assignment?
Well, I think that I'm a guy who I believe is a teacher. right? And I think that he is a kid who needs nurturing, right? All fighters need certain forms of nurture, but he needs to be nurtured more, and a little bit more different skill set, right? And I think I can offer to him. We talked about it, and he's like, he really wanted, even before he had the fight, he said he wanted to come with me. I'm like, man, well, what? He said, like, the week before the fight, he's like, I want to go with him. Like, are you for real? But this was after the fact, so I think it's dope. I think it's something that's, I didn't wish for it. I only said I would, this was funny. I said I would take 5 fighters where I had 3. And then I said I was holding the spot for another heavyweight fighter.
Yeah, I didn't want to forget Anthony Joshua in that
but,
mix as well.
Listen, I was holding the spot for certain people, and then a Charlo, but he didn't. I was like, well, okay, listen, nobody's going to wait on anybody. So when AJ comes in, it's beautiful. Then you get, so it makes it complete. The 5 is all that's like, to be able to continue to be effective, 5 is the limit.
Well, Errol can get a lot of different looks in that All-Star
Right.
camp they got going on
No
there
doubt, no
in
doubt.
Texas. Derek James, the head coach, the defending and reigning coach of the year here, trainer of the year. Great to chat with you.
A fighter. Yeah.
Enjoy the build. You got 45 more days to make the X's and O's, make the hard work happen. We can't wait to see the fruit of the labor. So thank you
so
for
much.
joining us.
Thank you, guys.
There he is.
Thank you.
Derek James in the house. Texas' own. He also owns Dallas, apparently, but we were great. Nice to talk to him. There's the big fish himself, Moby Dick, Errol Spence, Strapsism, Luke.
That's what they say.
Is,
That's what the kids on TikTok say, I guess.
Were you surprised, though? Because Errol showed a little bit more of his personality than we normally
did.
see. He was talking about some guy at LA Fitness that was complaining about the shirt. That guy should be happy he's got a shirt on his back. Okay?
I didn't quite get that. Was he complaining that the guy who he got the shirt from was not as nice as himself?
He was saying that
as
fans
Errol?
need to support, okay? Not be complaining about the texture of the shirt. Fans need to come out, buy the pay-per-view, show up because they want... He's basically, you know what he's saying without saying it? That the big fights need to be made. Chances need to be taken. He says there are fighters like him and Terence that are willing to do it, but they need that business backbone, that fan support to drive it home. But the other thing I wanted to bring up was, we know we're fighting for the 4 championship belts, the undisputed title. How about that little rant against the sanctioning bodies from Errol Spence?
Yeah, where's the money going? Yeah, that was a little bit surprising, although, as a champion and the guy who has 3 of those 4 belts, you are allowed to express your opinion. It's an interesting question. I don't have an answer for him, certainly, but I admire his candor. I would also add, BC, the thing that I really admire from Errol Spence, which is really driving a lot of this operation, is we need to prove, not just take risk and if it falls apart, still say it's okay. No. We need to prove that accepting risk actually works for business. And the 2 audiences, rather, that he identified as needing to hear this were boxing suits and other fighters. Dude, he's right. He's very right. It's not just about accepting risk and being like, oh, well, that guy did it, that worked for him, but I don't want to do it for me. No, it's about not necessarily creating contagion, but proving, for lack of a better description, it's a proof of concept question. Does accepting risk actually work out for you in the long run if you really work at it and it's really a part of your identity and a business can thrive as a consequence? Yeah, these are big questions, big challenges. We need more of that. Frankly, it's an entrepreneurial spirit, but also it's a really driven, fiery, competitive spirit combining to put us in a very, as consumers, a very advantageous position.
Well, it feels like it's contagious. We saw Ryan Garcia go out of his way to make that Tank Davis fight happen. Both fighters taking the chance there, and we saw that big event. And we're seeing consistently now the best trying to find a way to match with the best. Why? Because that's how legends are made. That's why we're still talking about Sugar Ray Leonard and Tommy Hearns and Duran and Hagler and everyone else. You got a feeling they're going to be talking about Spencer Crawford for a long time, regardless of who wins July 29th. And as we keep...
Or the rematch.
I think we're trying to talk this into existence. The rematch and the trilogy fight, which, I'm ready for all of it.
Right. One hasn't even happened yet. We realize we're jinxing everything. But it is exciting. It's just so exciting. It's so exciting that we're here. It's so exciting that these 2 guys were just on stage together here with us and then over there to talk about this upcoming fight. It feels... I know that certain folks are like, oh my God, it's so overdue. I truly understand that. I don't really want to challenge any of that. But at the same time, now that it is here, dude, each one of these, we've got 2 of them. Today was really fun. I'm just so 45 days, man. 45 days is going to be hard to get through, but I can't wait.
fired the heck up. July 29th, T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Only on Showtime pay-per-view and, of course, presented by Premier Boxing Champions.
Also, tickets at AXS.com. Tickets.
Get those tickets. Be in the arena that night. And if you can't, hey, how about a party? How about a pay-per-view party? This is one of those nights. I'll never forget, Luke. Hagler versus Leonard, 1987, my first pay-per-view party.
That was your first one?
There's something that happens to a young fan, you know, level of expectation, or if not expectation, a level of that's how great it can be. It was great that night. We're still debating who won that fight. Let's see what our opinion is in the aftermath of July 29th. You have to have the feeling this could be a classic, and as we keep teasing, you could be seeing a lot more. Any final thoughts, Luke, or expectations as we take this home ahead of this fight? We had back-to-back left and right coast press conferences, got to see their personalities, got to see a little bit of posturing. Now, what are you going to be focusing on in the tape room ahead of this, getting ready for July 29th?
Yeah, the X's and O's to me are just the biggest questions that we have, the most intriguing ones that we have. I asked about the stance because we know Bud Crawford oftentimes will fight other southpaws as a southpaw. I wonder if that will get switched up, and if so, what that looks like. About whether or not, what kind of body work related to foot positioning and angles that a guy like Spence is going to be employing, and what's going to be available, and who's going to pressure. Again, to the point that Derek James raised, BC, scenarios. What are the key scenarios that they are most likely to find themselves in?
Right.
And also the counterpunching of Bud Crawford. I think sometimes you mentioned Errol not reaching. Errol can sometimes reach on his cross, and that can get him out of position, especially when you lunge, right? So a guy like Terence Crawford is going to be feasting on something like that, a little fish fry action if that happens. But
it was fish fillet.
Fish fillet.
Term, yeah.
But you get my point. Like, there are just a gazillion interesting boxing questions just inside that fighting surface, to say nothing, of course, of the broader business.
And we get a chance to talk to him, but Terence Crawford's trainer, Brian McIntyre, Bo-Mac, was yelling in the background, hot sauce on that fish. So that's a nice, illustration of what they plan to bring.
I bought hot sauce and put it in my backpack last night.
You have not eaten a meal without hot sauce, okay? In at least a decade.
You know what? It's excellent.
Good luck to your insides there. That's it. Bringing it home right here. Special thanks to the fighters, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford, and Derek James, the trainer of Spence. But that's it.
Let's plug the show.
Times Square, Luke, got a little bit taste of us. We are the co-hosts of the Showtime Sports Digital Combat Sports Series, Morning Combat. We review, preview, break down, interview, analyze, all that, the biggest names and stories across the combat sports landscape. Boxing, MMA, bare knuckle, I mean, whatever they got, we'll do it, right? Except for that, where they dress up in medieval like armor and they fight. That's a little nerdy. I don't cover that.
Little nerdy?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern, youtube.com/Morning Combat. And if you want more in the Showtime sports land in the sport of boxing, check out Fight Towns right now on the Showtime Sports YouTube channel, hosted by 2003 NBA champion and fired up fight fan and growing broadcaster himself, Steven Jackson.
Also, all around, very nice guy. Really nice guy.
Boxing loves him too. Boxing loves that.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to dislike him.
They like almost bow down like he's the uncle. And check out that episode. It was in Houston. We got Charlo brothers. We got Raul Marquez, El Diamante, and many more of the fighters that make up that Houston backbone and reputation. Excuse me. Check that out. Also, right now, you can check out a great documentary of one of the greatest fighters in the history of this sport, undefeated Andre Ward. It's called SOG, The Book of Ward. You can stream it right now on Paramount Plus, on Showtime, on the app. Check it out. Luke, a phenomenal documentary about an even better fighter in person right there. Bearing all for the first time on the inside.
I got to watch it. That's one of the ones I haven't seen yet. I got to make time for it.
Catch that streaming right now and, maybe catch me outside. How about that?
How about that?
Yeah, how about that?
Conor McGregor was outside.
Well, Teofimo Lopez was in here.
Teofimo Lopez was here.
Akin Barak. I mean, there's, all the celebrities. Sean Porter, I think, was here too, right? Did you see him?
I did not see Sean. I saw the folks from the Sean Porter podcast, though.
I may have made that up. But plenty of luminaries here. We expect T-Mobile Arena to be jam-packed and no shortage of the big ones. July 29th. Get ready. Buy it on Showtime pay-per-view. But until then, 45 more days to go. Catch us on Morning Combat. We'll be breaking down every aspect of it with big interviews ahead of time. But enjoy the fight. 45 more days. I'm Brian Campbell. This is Luke Thomas. Thank you for joining us. Spence versus Crawford for all the marbles.
Errol Spence Jr. is one of the best boxers on planet Earth. And down goes Cal Brooks. Errol Spence with some sweet combinations.
He is the winner by technical knockout.
You've got the 3 belts. What's next?
And now the unified welterweight champion of the world.
Everybody know who I want next. I want Terence Crawford next.
I do believe this is the perfect time. You got two great fighters in their prime for all the marbles. It's going to be an exciting fight. I just can't wait for it to happen.
That's the fight we all want to see.
There's been a back and forth a lot with you and Bud Crawford.
I don't know your number. Save it. I want all the smoke. But right now, I'm looking at Terence Crawford.
This is for undisputed. This is a big moment for not only myself, but for Errol Spence Jr.
Saturday, July 29th, they're going to crown the first 4-belt undisputed champion in 147-pound history.
The wait is over. Watch me fry this fish.
Yeah, I know what time it is, baby. Terence, I'm coming for that motherfucking belt.
Andre, whoa!
You have to understand what I've been through. All of it made me into the man that I am today.
32-0, his brother Andre Ward was great.
I'm going to do things my way. I wanted to have a body of work, not just in the ring, but as a man.
Only thing you ain't done in boxing is lose.
SOG, The Book of Ward, only on Showtime, streaming with Paramount Plus.
When it's time to get it in, I ain't the one to mess with.
Bellator returns with a double title fight tilt. Light heavyweight champ Vadim Nemkov is on a collision course.
Ain't no way to stop us when we hit ignition.
With the most terrifying fighter in MMA, Yoel Romero.
What a monster!
Plus, bantamweight champ Sergio Pettis.
Pettis, spectacular!
Faces Bellator GOAT Patricio Pitbull.
Ain't no way to stop us when we on a mission.
Bellator MMA, Nemkov versus Romero, and Pettis versus Pitbull. Friday on Showtime.